Now I'm not sure that any of that audio was caught. I'm going to keep going. Hopefully it was. Um, what I wanted to talk about, though, is preparing for this next quarter. So I was watching. That's what made me think about it, because once again, I'm finding myself watching these different, not specifically or not limited to productivity, but as a new year approaches, all of that, there is a lot of content about preparing for the new year. The term winter arc has gained popularity. And I actually did see a video recently that was talking about the winter arc, but again, still um, that central theme of focusing on the quarter ahead. So there was a video I saw by Alexis Kingsley, and she cited this quote that, like, a definite aha moment for me. She paraphrased, but I did um, look up and find that the quote is by Robert Henry, and it is, "The object isn't to make art, but to be in that wonderful state that makes art inevitable." And so, what this means is that rather than saying, like, oh, I have to, so if we're talking about making the YouTube videos, right? It's not saying, like, oh, I have to make YouTube videos. I have to, like, sit down and record. Like, yes, those concrete things do come into play. But if I want to create the circumstances that make creating inevitable, what does that look like? So when it comes to making videos, it's getting up and doing things that make me, like, feel good in my body, in my spirit, um, in my face, to feel ready to be on camera. For one thing, I know that's something that has given me pause in the past, is uh, feeling like, oh, I don't feel camera ready, whatever that's supposed to mean, because I'm not a makeup girly, obviously. Um, but even when I think about some of the vlogs where people are, waking up with the camera on, but I don't know about you, but when I first wake up, my face is a little swollen. My mouth is dry. My voice isn't quite ready for use, things like that. Um, so in that sense, things that would set me up to feel creative and photogenic include, but are not limited to, waking up during my target time, uh, starting with the hydration straight away, particularly since that's the habit that I'm working on for this month. Um, Getting into my body, whether that is going for a walk, doing some yoga, or even, just free flow stretches, not necessarily yoga poses, but just something that grounds me, um, but also further contributes to my alertness and my readiness. Like, um, I'm thinking of the group Ready for the World. But yeah, like the things that make me feel ready for the world. Uh, Another thing that would, if we're talking about recording videos, having a running list of topics that I'm interested in talking about or prepared to talk about, if, depending whether or not they require research. Um, let me elaborate on this quote in a slightly more official way, right? So, this quote suggests that the goal is to immerse oneself in a state of mind where creativity and inspiration can flow naturally rather than simply creating art for the sake of it. Now, in Alexis's video, she gives some examples of what that could look like. And she's talking about this as part of an overarching arcing based on the winter arc premise um, strategy. And so I invite you to think about what your goal is for this next quarter and what you could do in order to make it where being victorious in that goal is inevitable. Is it training yourself to wake up earlier? Excuse me. Is it um, is it moving from being a person who showers in the morning to being a person who showers the night before, so that that's one less focus or stressor in the morning? Um, it could be, if this sort of thing works for you, it could be doing your planning the night before so that when you wake up, you know exactly um, what's on your plate. Or it could be that one of the first things you do in the morning is look at your plan for the day, see where you are energetically, and if the things that aren't mandatory can be moved around or rescheduled. Um, I'm that reminds me now of a Rowena Sai, I believe, maybe her last name, but she and many others, I'm sure, have talked about, rather than scheduling, just kind of based on what you think would be good, scheduling your day, or making plans based on your specific ebb and flow of energy. And so that can also be something to incorporate as you, whether you're refreshing how you plan or whether you're starting a new system from scratch. That's something you can absolutely incorporate. Also, some things that can contribute to this are uh, doing things that you enjoy. Because really, when you feel good, it's just easier to do a little bit of anything that you would be inclined to be doing. Um, if we're focusing on being creative, being present during creative moments, and of course, this is a super common thing to say, but less screen time will always go a long way. But really, I don't even want to focus on screen time with that point. What I really want to say is, if if your goal is to create more, it would be beneficial to receive less inputs. So, or even modify the type of input. And yes, reducing your social media use, even streamlining who you follow online based on how they make you feel. Um, that all goes a long way. And just giving yourself time to be alone with your thoughts and to process your thoughts rather than always receiving external input. That alone, because I think a lot of us, I won't say have forgotten, but we're less in the practice of sitting with our thoughts and ideas and feelings and the things that are the root of creating. That is not necessarily to say that you would abstain from all inputs. Obviously, you're going to have conversations, right? And that's often where inspiration comes from. But I something that I have found in the past couple of months, I decided to start participating in my local library's book club. And in November, I picked up the book the day before the book club met. It was a very ambitious goal. I did not quite read the book in time. I will acknowledge, though, that the day that I picked up the book was also election day. So there was quite a bit of running around that day. And then the next morning, the morning of the book club meeting, there was a lot for me to process. I also was having a lot of dialogue with folks. So, yeah, not exactly conducive to reading a book in a day, but I did choose to read the book anyway. And a few things came out of it. One, I did enjoy the book. It was set in a different point in time. So that kind of got some of my gears going. But it was a physical book. And I haven't read a physical book in quite some time. I had been reading via audiobooks and ebooks for the past, hmm, definitely few years, maybe several. And there's different reasons for that. Obviously, convenience would be an easy one to cite. But I will also say that, like with relocating, that caused me to pare down my stuff. And then when I decided that I wanted to super downsize and travel across the country for several months, that definitely made it where like space was a consideration, storage was a consideration. So I, in pretty much any way that I could, moved away from physical things if they had the option of being digital. So having this tangible book where when I pick up the book, there's no alerts coming through the pages, right? There's no lights, it's not making noises. It's just me and this book and the story and my imagination. And that awakened so many parts of my creative self that I hadn't, it felt like I hadn't been connected to in a long time. So that would be something that I might even suggest is if you've gone fully digital, maybe revisit analog a little bit and see how that feels and what that might spark and what that might allow room for. Um, yeah, I don't want to go on too long, but let me ask you this. What is a goal that what goal are you working on in this next quarter? Um, or I guess if you don't want to, because I know sometimes people are like, oh, I don't necessarily want to talk about the thing until I'm ready to pop out and show folks. Uh, but maybe if you did decide what your four goals for the next year would be, what would one of those quarterly goals be? Go ahead and drop it in the comments. Thank you so much for joining me, and I look forward to talking to you again soon. Bye.